May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. Good morning. Alleluia, Christ is risen. My name is Louise Howlett. I'm very happy to be here with you today. This is my first visit to St. George's. I live in Dublin, so my husband and I had a beautiful drive over across the state this morning. And I'm Nathan and Nicole and Francis's backup plan in case their baby came a little sooner than expected, another surprise. So he'll still be an Easter surprise because Easter lasts a while, so yeah, it'll be an Easter blessing. So I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'm on the bishop's staff as the Dean of Clergy here in the Diocese of New Hampshire, and I'm also a therapist, and I also serve as a priest associate at All Saints in Peterborough. And so I bring greetings from the bishop and from All Saints to you here at St. George's. It's very lovely to be with you, and thank you for the gorgeous music already. I feel blessed. And thank you for the story and whoever set up this beautiful scene. It's powerful. So many years ago, I attended an art therapy class in which we painted colors and images that came from our hearts. The teacher came over to my pretty designs of greens and blues and purples and yellows, of trees and birds and flowers, and she asked, "What is the worst thing that could happen to your painting?" "Well," I said, "the trees could be dead, the sky could be black, the colors could be all smeared and ugly." "Okay," she said, "paint that." I didn't want to do that, but her job was to help me uncover my worst fears, my darkest thoughts, and put them on paper, bring them out into the light. Amazingly, as I did that week after week, my fears and my shames began to have less power over me, less ability to paralyze and limit me. The more I uncovered and shared, the more brave and encouraged I became, not just in painting, but in my work and in my relationships too. In the last days of his life, Jesus led his followers to confront their worst fears, to face disillusionment and grief, and then see what was left of their faith. Jesus repeatedly disappointed their expectations. He did not fight back or lead a rebellion to throw off the Romans' oppressive rule. He did not try to talk Judas out of his betrayal. He did not even speak up to defend himself at his own trial. And then he died, a humiliating, gruesome, and public death, with no struggle, no last-minute divine rescue. All the hopes and dreams of the disciples were crushed. They had thought he was the long-awaited Messiah who would lead them into glory, but they had to let go of that hope as he died in front of them. And even now, as the women came to the tomb to anoint his broken body, and they find it gone, they're terrified, not joyful. They don't understand what is happening. They're afraid, even as they are told by the angel that Jesus has gone ahead to Galilee and waits for them there. And then, in the days and weeks after his crucifixion, Jesus did repeatedly appear to his followers. He came into a room where they hid in fear. He fed them on a beach after a long night fishing. He met them on the road when they were heading home in disappointment. And over, he gave them encouraging words of peace and forgiveness. He gave them a purpose for their future, to share the good news of God's love for all. And it's in hindsight, when all their previous political hopes and religious illusions were dead, that they slowly start to understand what Jesus had been trying to teach them all along, they start to grasp that God's way is not usually to change the way this world works, but instead to change the power the world has over us. It was not until they faced their fears and his death that they could see his teaching revealed. The path to love and peace and hope is not in avoiding suffering and death, but in facing them and learning from them. It's love fully revealed in Jesus' giving of himself, that gives us new life. A few years ago, I was speaking at an Easter morning service at an elder care community where my 103-year-old cousin, also named Louise, lived. She was uncomfortable in her body by then, but she was still funny and perky and quick-witted. Yet she feared dying. Even after all those decades of life and after losing her husband and one of her children, she was still not feeling ready to go. And I looked around at that service and saw this whole group of people in the twilight of their lives, still wanting and needing a word of hope and encouragement to face their fears. I reminded them that they had already faced many of the things they feared most: the sickness or death of loved ones, their own illnesses, the loss of their ability to work or see or hear or walk as well as they used to. Fear did not need to hold them back any longer. They had the wisdom and the courage of experience and perspective. They already knew from all they had endured that giving and receiving love was the most important thing about this life. Yet I imagine the dread of some of those same things keeps us up at night. And maybe anxiety about climate change or political conflict or cultural tensions and violence, these also keep us up. They threaten to overshadow our hope and our faith. They make us want to hide in some room like the disciples did, wishing things weren't true. And sadly, many voices in our media and our leadership actively stoke our fear rather than encourage love and inspire hope. Nevertheless, I imagine if you look at your own life and the world around you with eyes of compassion and faith rather than fear and anxiety, you also can testify that even after painful loss, there can be peace and even joy. And Jesus, who has faced sadness and pain, death and disappointment right alongside us, Jesus comes to us on this Easter morning, inviting us to believe in new life, which can arise even out of suffering and loss. The writer Anne Lamott wrote a deeply moving and somehow also hilarious memoir of coming to faith called Traveling Mercies, which I recommend to you. In it, she tells how she survived through a strange and confusing childhood, alcoholism, drug addiction, bulimia, multiple deaths of loved ones, and miraculously, she finds God's love for her in the midst of it. If any of you have been in a 12-step group like AA or NA, you have heard and maybe lived stories like these, where people thought there was no hope for them. Yet through God's grace, forgiveness, and love found them, redeemed them, gave them new life. It's how we live in the face of our fears and our troubles that defines life. It's not death or divorce or addiction or loss, but love and connection which have the last word, which can make even a hard life meaningful and rich. When we trust in God's love in the midst of everything, then we can face our demons head on. We can bring our dark parts out into the light. We can take risks to love and connect instead of hiding and holding back. Every day of our lives can be Easter, a new day to share more, to give more, to love more. Every day can be a day to tell the truth, to say you're sorry, to forgive others and yourself, to celebrate and give thanks, to make a new beginning. At Easter, we're reminded that with God, we can face death with hope. We can quiet fear with faith. We can soften suffering with love. In the funeral service in the Book of Common Prayer, there is a verse we say even as we are laying a loved one into the ground. All of us go down to the dust, yet even at the grave we make our song. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Amen.